today my topic is the gentle cosmic-ness. So talking about everything that we've done so far is about community, about love, about kindness. So taking the gentleness to a cosmic level, breathing in truth and changing our perspective and celebrating life. That gentleness, that kindness of going through. And, you know, I had a super experience of that this week. I was able to attend through Ernie, who is a council member for for White Rock, not CSL. And he called Jill and said, we're having this event. You guys should come out and check it out. So what it was the Vancouver Diocese of the Catholic Church had come together with the White Rock Pride Society to host a conversation. There was 2 other ministers that were included. There was the United Church that came, and there was also a Baptist church that came, and they facilitated the conversation. And how this all started out was the Pride Society was hosting an event, and they wanted a fundraiser, and so they went to the Star of the Sea and wanted to rent the room. So they filled out the application, did the whole thing, and then they were promptly told, well, sorry, we cannot rent you this space. Yeah, because your values do not align with our values. So obviously major discrimination there against a community. That there's lots of Catholics, lots of spiritual people in that community. So they were talking, and they ended up talking to a friend of theirs who was a lawyer, and she said, you know, this is a human rights issue, and we need to move it forward. So if you want, you don't have to, but if you want. So they decided they would. So 2 years of lawyers, of going back and forth, doing the whole thing. But then the Vancouver Diocese did something interesting. They called Ernie, the president of the Pride Society, and said, can we meet and talk? And Ernie said, okay, because the 2 hadn't been face-to-face yet. They hadn't talked. It's all been through lawyers. So they came together and they spoke, and they realized they got to know each other. They didn't actually talk about what was happening. They started to get to know the other person that was in the room with them. And they realized, and they started to develop a friendship. And then what happened from that is that they decided to walk the path of reconciliation rather than retribution. The Catholic Church came out and apologized to the White Rock Pride Society. Now it was in the news. They were just on CBC, weren't they, Jill? And so this was something that happened, I guess, last year. And so this year they facilitated this conversation to keep the doors open of what is love, what does it look like? And what came through, which amazed me, well, it shouldn't amaze me. I know it's all one thing, but the Catholic priest that was up on the stage, he said, when I'm talking to people and somebody's coming to me with an issue, or they're having a challenge about their sexual identity or what is going on in their body, he goes, I just sit there with them and I open my heart. And I want to be heart-centered with them and be in that space of right here, right now. He goes, I don't know the path they've walked to get there. I don't know the path they're going to have to walk after. But if I can be in that space of love. And I was like, isn't that what we teach? Isn't that what we talk about every Sunday? The love that is. And I know my biggest takeaway from it was tuning into love. And that love has no walls, it has no boundaries. It's everything that we are. It is everything that every person, every living animal, everything is love. And I had the presence also to go, I'm looking at my phone because I want to quote Reverend Terry on this, because he came with us and he said he couldn't believe how much this opened his heart as being a Catholic monk and then going through to this. So I asked him, if you were to say, what was your biggest takeaway? He said, my takeaway was how the path of reconciliation is clearly better than the path of retribution. And that reconciliation must include actions like real dialogue, conversation, and the creation of real connection. He said, those people on the stage demonstrated genuine connection and caring. And that was so true, sitting in the audience. And it touched, and Jill, Terry and I were there, and it just touched our hearts so much to see the opening. It's the step. And in this gentle cosmic-ness of life, this is what it's about. As I started off the conversation this morning with a heavy topic about how things are, there's so much bad news out there every day, and people committing atrocities against each other, our crime rates. But we have to remember there's so much more to life than circumstances. We come back to that science of mind and realize that since there is only one life force, one life energy is present everywhere all the time, it is alive in us. It's alive in humanity today. So what can we do about that? It's that practicing of letting go. That practice of, okay, so what, now what? It is the practice of loving, looking at each person, having that faith of God. Not the faith in God or the divine or source, whatever you call it, but let's walk this path of having the faith of God. Oh, I didn't expect to get this emotional, but it is there. To take time and give ourselves space to remember this truth. We are one, folks. We are one. There's many faces, many names, skin tones, genders, opinions, education, religions, whatever it is. But it is time that we all loved one another. There's time to share the gentleness and everything else with everyone. It is time to recognize the love of life in our humanity and to celebrate who we are and have faith in where we're going. Because it can be easy to get down on what's going on right now in the world, right? But when it's changing our perspective, moving forward through things. There's a songwriter, Julie Blackwelder, and she wrote, I am in God, and God is in me, and my God is expressing now. It's expressing now. And that's in each of us. We're all expressing that divine source, that inner presence, that wisdom. We all have it. And sometimes, you know what? I need that little swift kick in the butt to remind me of that. Because let's face it, I go along my little life and I know I'm in the science of mind teaching and I should be behaving this way as a minister, or I should be behaving this way as a practitioner. And then I go and do my little human thing of rah, 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 right? And then I realize and come back to it. And then I remember, or I call my practitioner, or I call my mentor and like, oh, this happened. How do I move through this? And it's like letting go. What if the question I was been asking myself is, well, if I just allowed whatever is going on in my life and just to be at peace with it, and then what if I were to just let it go? I know it's there, but I can let it go. I can choose a different perspective. I can choose a different thought in this moment. And what if I was letting go of that expectation? What if I was letting go of that expectation of how I think my husband should show up, whoever it is, my brother, my father, whoever it is. Oh, whoops. Notice I noticed all men there. Whoops, sorry about that, men in the audience. I do have sometimes. Right? And so it's letting go of that expectation and almost that attachment, right? That string that pulls me in, that I want to be right about that, they behave badly and this is the way it is. But if I have that faith of God and I look at them differently and I change my mind about it, right? What a different world it is. And you know what? That person, whoever I'm talking about, they didn't change. I changed. And then everything else changed. Because I can do the work here and I can make that ripple effect out. Whether it's in nature, whether it's in relationship, it's whatever I want to make it into this life. I was talking to a friend, and she's a therapist and also a minister and of unity. And she was telling me that she used to have on her wall all the, like a big poster, like the whiteboard that we have over there, it had all the different emotions. So sometimes she would have children come in and talk to her, and they'd be like, I'm really mad at Sally because blah, blah, blah. And they'd say their little story. Or not it was not little to them, it was their story. And she'd go, well, okay, so how does that make you feel? Well, I'm really angry right now, or I'm sad, and she goes, well, how do you want to feel? So the kids would go up to the poster and they go, oh, I want to be happy. I want to be joyful. So then they would work through and she would ask them, well, what is a thought that makes you joyful right now in this moment? What is that thought? So let's talk about that. So she went through. And then she said, it's really interesting. Then I'd have the adults come in. And they would go, oh, I'm having a bad day. My boss, he blah, 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 or she blah, 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 and this, she did this, and they did that, and on and on. She goes, then she'd ask them that same question. Okay, so how are you feeling? Well, I'm angry. I don't feel heard. I don't feel listened to. Okay, well, how do you want to feel? And they'd look at the board and they go, well, I guess I could feel discouraged. I guess I could feel sad or that. And she goes, that's how you want to feel? She goes, don't you want to feel happy? And they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. I haven't been happy for years. And they're like, right? And then that's the thing. Sometimes we don't allow ourselves that. We go, well, I can't choose happiness. I can't do that. This is just bringing a story. It's not, oh my gosh, going off topic again as usual. But right now we're in the middle of our 40-day of prayer. And we're on day 13, people. Day 13. And I was reading in it this morning in the book by Reverend Leslie Goodwin. And she talked about how sometimes we forget to pray for ourselves. It's easy to pray for others because we want the best for our friends and for our family, and we want the best for our community, and we want everything good for everybody. And then when it comes to praying for ourselves, we're like, oh, it's that piece. Oh, well, I haven't been happy for a while. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can pray for myself. But that's where it starts. Again, going back, we're starting in on that inner work, on that inner place of being. So my friend said, if we think a different thought, we have a different feeling. So this week, as a practice, I'd ask you to say to yourself, what is a thought I could think that would give the experience of that emotion that you want to feel? So if you're angry in the moment or you're frustrated driving, whatever it is, what is the emotion? What is the feeling that you want to have? Is it joy? Is it happiness? Whatever it is, then think of a thought that would give you that experience in the moment and see what happens. Play with that this week a little bit and see where it takes you. So, community. Here we are in community. And, going back to Ernest Holmes, he talks about in this wonderful little book called This Thing Called You, on page 29. He says, you will notice, if you follow a few simple rules and methods carefully, that when thoughts of confusion persist in coming to the surface, statements of peace will neutralize them. When thoughts of fear assail, Statements of faith will counteract their action. When thoughts of unhappiness well up from within, thoughts of happiness and joy will transmute them through the alchemy of spirit. It will transmute them through the alchemy of spirit. He does say in the next sentence, he says, first of all, you must arrive at peace of mind. It is only on the basis of peace that you can persist with absolute certainty. Peace alone gives poise. So I was trying to find that quote, and I looked up into the wrong book. I looked up into this one, which is, I haven't actually read all of it yet, but I thought it was this thing called you, but it's this thing called life. And so I'd found it, and I looked up in the quote on page same 29, and what he was talking about the same thing in the confusion of life. He says, learn to see through confusion into peace, to see through sickness into health, to see through poverty into success and abundance, to believe in the all-sustaining good, learn to trust in God, and be at peace. So, 2 different books, same almost page, and same message. The same message, which is amazing. So, here we are in the community of gentle kindness, of that larger of life, of how we can look at it. And we can look at life and say, it's not just us and them. The multiverse is bigger than we can imagine. Isn't there another universe too out there? There's the metaverse. That's even bigger too. That other underground where people are buying houses in the metaverse. Did you know that? Yeah, you can buy houses, you can do all these things. I don't know, my son was telling me and I just went blank. I was like, I couldn't understand all of it. But it's going through and realizing that there is more to life than the things that we imagine. It's even like when we go to imagine going to Mars and exploring beyond our solar systems, we get to remember that we are one energy in multiple forms. No matter where we go or where we find it, there is always love. So in our evolving awareness, we get to embrace that there's so much more to life than our current understanding. Okay, so this is a quote from Agent K in Men in Black. He says, 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. Imagine what we'll know tomorrow. Imagine what we'll know tomorrow. So, and it's also being gentle in love and compassion. We cannot know what we don't know yet. We can't know what we don't know. But there's also the flip side of it. Once we know it. We can't unlearn it. We can't forget it. We have to, as we talked a few weeks ago, we wake up to it. We wake up to that breath, to that gentleness. But it's okay with not knowing and continuously looking around and being curious and asking, that question, what would love do here? What would love do here? And that curiosity opens us up to more and more. And we can focus on out there first, but it's while we're present here, right? I was talking to somebody the other day and I said that heart center, that place, when we talk about knowing and going within and the divine, where do we always place our hands? Right here. We don't place them here in our brain, right? It's here. It's in our center. It's in our heart space and feeling that beat and knowing that pulse of the universe. So we'll walk the path of intention of love. So in this cosmic giant of gentleness, calling for us to expand in awareness and liberally apply love and compassion to all the aspects of life. It doesn't matter what the topic is, but it's listening to your body. Do you ever get that little hit? Does anybody feel that intuition? Where do you feel it in your body? Right? Yeah, stomach, heart. I get it sometimes in my chest. You get it in your stomach, yeah. right? There's these different places that we feel and we know that gut feeling, that they call it that, right? So it's listening to that as we go through our life and applying that wisdom to love and compassion to all aspects of our lives. Listen to our body. Get extraordinarily good at being present with the uncomfortableness. Now, this is a good idea. I'm still thinking about this thought here. It is getting present with the uncomfortableness and not reacting. Not reacting, but listening. Listening to the other person, getting to know them. That's what the Archdiocese and Ernie did. They got to know each other. They became friends. And the 3 ministers that were up there, all different faiths, came together. And that was the thing they said too. We got to know each other. We listened. We listened deeply. And sometimes I can forget to listen because I might be thinking about what I want to say next. But if we can listen and tune into the other person, that is always the best way to be. So imagine, because of the work we do, generations are raised in this gentleness and love. Authenticity and kindness are the new look of success and happiness. Oneness is recognized in each and every one of us. This is ours to do, but yet this is ours to be. To be that love in the world, to be that, as Gandhi says, to be the change you want to see in the world. I like to say to be the love that you want to see in the world. That cosmic gentleness from this grand rising. So Ernest Holmes says, life is not just something to be endured. It is to be lived in joy and fullness, without limit. I place no value on anything unless it brings gladness, love, friendship, the ability to laugh, and makes me feel that every person I meet, if I knew him, I would love him or them. That's written way back in the 1920s, people, right? How that wisdom has come through. So, questions to ask yourself. How do you feel about the idea that life is always working out? How do you feel about that idea? And could you apply gentleness to yourself when you're talking about that idea? When you're thinking about it in maybe your journal or wherever you are. So, of course, I always like to give you a little bit to think about at the end. So, somebody suggested I not call it homework because everybody glazes over. Homework. I don't want to do homework. Gosh. So here's a personal, practical application of what you can do. So this next week, if you receive some bad news or you're anxious and you want to run and hide, take a couple minutes. Now, I've experienced this actually, this is what I'm going to tell you, in Liv's meditation on Thursday night. I'll explain a little bit about this. So if you come up and you're anxious and you want to run and hide from an issue, just take a couple minutes and put the issue or the feeling on a shelf, real or imaginary. So what Liv had us do is to put it in a basket in the corner while we were doing meditation. And then take several deep breaths. And then imagine that you've now sitting across from that basket or that shelf. And then take another couple breaths and sit across even further from it. And remember, you've survived so many things in your life. Breathe. Remember that love is so much bigger than the situation. And breathe. Tell this problem how big your love is. And breathe. Tell this issue that there are always solutions and answers. And guess what? Breathe. Then when you're ready, or when you want, guess what? You can pick up that problem again. You can empty out your basket, but you're looking at it from a different point of view now. And remember to ask yourself, what is it that I want to feel? And what is that thought that I can bring out in this moment that will make me feel that joy, that love, that expression of life? Whew. That was a lot today. Hopefully you remember it all, and then you'll come back and tell me, so I will actually put this homework in the newsletter on Thursday. I'll get it to Liv to put in there, because it's how can we look at our problems differently. So let's take this into prayer. Knowing that there is that one life, that one love, that universal presence, that inner presence that is operating in, through, and as each of us. It is joy, it is beauty, it is love. So today I know that I am love expressed in this world as each of you are love expressed in this world. We can release and let go of any fear. We can release and let go of that worry and concern and step into a new thought, into a new feeling. I know that life knows what it's doing. I know that life is unfolding in perfection. It is complete and whole right here, right now. Because I know I am spirit having this human experience. And I know that I am here on this earth to love and to be loved, to be kind. It is all that my life is expressing at any given moment. I know it. I feel it. And I am so grateful for knowing of this truth, knowing of this life unfolding in perfection right here, right now. So as I allow this to be, I let it go into that law of mind. I release and I allow life to work. I allow it to be. And I'll ask you all to join me in saying, and so it is.